Next item up on our agenda is a budget workshop for the assessor, June Fulmer.
Okay, and I have 3 departments, but I would like to start with my DMV. Well, what would be easier for you, assessor, if we go numerically?
Probably numerical.
Okay, let's go with my assessor budget.
Okay.
I'm really only including, and this is what if, it doesn't have to happen. The only thing that I am requesting additional in the B portion of my assessor budget is reimbursement for cell phone. And nothing else has changed. I've never taken reimbursement for my cell phone. I've preferred not to.
So this is for your cell phone?
It's for me and for Sue Leeper. It would be for me for 12 months, and it would be for Sue Leeper for 6 months, $25 a month. And it comes to $450.
Why is yours lower than everybody else's? If we're reimbursing everybody else at $50, why would yours only be 25?
It's my personal phone, and I've just preferred not
We have
to
a
be
re-
reimbursed. It's a personal thing.
We have a
And
rating system on who gets reimbursed $10, $20
It's based on
50.
use. Yeah.
based on
Yes.
use of their
Okay.
cell phone.
But I think it's only 10 and 50. I don't think,
there's no 25?
I don't.
I thought there was a 25.
There is a
Oh, there
middle.
is a middle one.
Yeah, there is a middle one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't need to take the full 50 because my phone is part personal and part work. I don't use it strictly for work. I do use it a lot, but it's not strictly for work.
Well-
And Sue Leeper for 6 months because hers, when she's in field, then hers gets used.
Okay, and everything else stays the same.
Yes.
Okay, everybody good with that one? 0102? Now we'll go to 0126,
What's the
which is,
education other? Is that? And I'm gonna go back to education again, as
My
far as this.
$2,000.
Yes.
That is, and I got a perfect example. I have a mapping class. We did get it rescheduled. It's going to be held the 24th of August up here. And I'm sending 2 of my ladies from my front office. And that's an example. We do have education that helps them. Plus it covers me for my certification because I'm under the assessor, and Sue Leeper and Dee Dee. Myself, Sue and Dee Dee, the 3 of us are certified appraisers for the state. Eliza and Laura are going to take a mapping class to help them with their job in the front office. And I need to keep my certification, as does Sue and Dee Dee. And all 3 of us have to go to school at least once a year to try to keep those credits coming in. We have to have 32 credits every 2 years.
doesn't Anthony have to have something?
Anthony's under reval.
Oh, okay.
What about any management training classes, self-improvement courses, anything?
If we pay for them and they are approved by IAAO and the state of Idaho, yes. So when I send, I sent Lori, it's reval budget, but I sent my mapper to a GIS conference. And she did receive some credits for it, not totally, but she got some credits. And that comes out of my education budget.
What about leadership training, management training for you?
If I pay
People
for
in the
them,
future.
if Pat puts it on, no.
Okay, If
I have
Pat puts it on, what about outside training?
If it's
Anything?
outside and I pay for it, Pat had me lined up to go to, well, Dee Dee and Sue did go to a training last fall. That was I can't think of what it was. It was one of those trainings that she gets where it's not put on by the state, but it's, you know
Like
what I'm
SHRM
thinking?
or SHRM or whatever it is?
Something like that.
Okay.
And they went down and that came out of my training budget and they got credits for it because we had to pay for it.
So I'm not seeing a training budget, so is that education?
Yes.
So you've got enough in there to do what you feel like you need to do to bring your people along for the future.
It's worked. We're a little behind right now because we had classes scheduled and COVID hit and it kind of threw us out of whack, but we're working through it.
Okay.
June, aren't you down 1 or 2 appraisers? Aren't you gonna have to have them trained if you get
That'll
them
be in
hired?
my reval.
That's all in review, okay. So then you wanna go to motor vehicles next?
Yes, that'll be a little bit, that one's gonna be, I would like to do some explaining on this one. We're in the B budget portion. I do not know what's going to be happening with our, mail this year. I am going to be greatly overdrawn on my supply budget because when COVID hit and we shut down McCall DMV and the Cascade DMV, they were mailing out plates to property owners, to customers, not property owners, customers. And my DMV, I don't have that right in front of me, my most current, but I know that I'm definitely going to be in the red on that one, because of that. There was nothing that was just one of those things that there's nothing we could do about it. And just to be safe, after visiting with Clerk Miller and Gabby, because I'm close to about $2,000 in postage, we went ahead and added that. It's one of those unknowns. We're just, because we don't know.
But this year we can get reimbursed for COVID,
Yeah, we get that money back maybe.
and we hope that
Yes.
people go online and use that service in the future, which
But
will
we still
continue.
have to mail
Yeah.
out plates.
But we would have less people standing in line.
Yes.
So
So this would cover, hopefully, to mail those plates. But it's an unknown. It's.
How
So
much is a
that's
stamp now?
50
52?
cents.
53.
55,
or
that is
55.
55.
do we have bulk mail?
We do.
So you get the bulk mail rate.
Which is 50, isn't it? I think. You said 50.
But if you're mailing out plates, you don't get the bulk
No.
rate.
No, plates can be
Yeah,
expensive. They
they're-
can be
Yeah, they're-
$4.60. I know
We-
one month we had, or 1 week, we had $260 just 1 week.
So is that something that we need to pass along to the consumer? Is a,
We
You
do,
okay.
we do collect for it but we don't get it all.
Okay.
I mean, it does come in, but it goes into a big pot.
So when someone requests by internet or mail that they want their plates mailed to them, you tack that fee onto the plate?
There's a mail fee, yes, there is a
How
mail
much
fee
is
on all
that?
renewals. It depends, I don't have it right off the top of my head, but we have enough that it should cover it, but like I said, when it comes in, Kathy gave me an example, it goes into the pot. It doesn't come into the DMV and we put it into our account, it
Goes into general
goes
fund.
into the pot.
But I'm thinking maybe if you know an average plate costs you $4.50 to mail out, that should be the mail
Well, we
charge.
do have those fees, yes,
Okay.
we do charge those. But in the meantime, we have to cover them out of this budget.
I think that's one you need to watch and see, because I think, like you said, that's gonna be more popular as time goes on.
Yeah.
And as long as we can charge back that fee, it's cheaper than, for them to pay that than it is to drive down here to
Oh,
get it.
yes,
absolutely.
oh, yes.
So,
And Kathy gave me an example here. It said McCall brought in $526.95 in mailing fees for April of 2020. And I paid out $434.35 that month for mailing fees. So it just kind of offsets. Some months we get more in, some months we get less in. We got more in, but it goes, like I said, it goes into that pot.
We collect for postage for the DMV. We budget $8,000 for revenue to be received is what our projection is for this year. So far, we've collected $7,100.
And then we upped it to 10 for 2020, correct?
Correct,
So we added the 2,000 to the revenue.
correct.
okay. So it
What's
sounds
the-
like you guys got it covered.
What's the pot that she's referencing?
It's just general
Just a
fund.
general
General
fund.
fund, yeah.
General
Okay.
fund.
Okay, we're good with that one, then we'll move on to the next.
May I
Oh,
I'd
oh,
like to add a little bit more on my DMV, and I know we're not discussing A budgets, but is it okay if I point out on the, okay. last year we had an employee that her increase in pay was estimated on the wrong figure. So when we do budgets, I do want to definitely go through that to be sure. Gabby and I have discussed it with Pat. We're all on the same page, and there will be some changes to my budget in my DMV.
So it was categorized wrong,
It was calculated incorrectly.
okay?
So just to let you know that.
All right, so now we're gonna move on to revow,
Yes.
which is 2,000 or 20. Oh.
So if I'm looking at it, 0002, is that 2 or is that 20 or what?
It's
20.
It's just 20, yeah, sorry.
And
02 is the road department, so it's all the way down kind of the.
Almost just above solid waste.
I did not make any requests for changes in my reval budget.
Okay, June, I hate to bring this up, and I know you've been hammered on it for quite a while now, but we need to figure out a way that we can start getting all those files scanned. What is your plan for that, and do we need any funds to do that?
Well, that's something that David and I had discussed, and he told me that when we get these rooms put back together down here, he will be putting that plotter in one of the, in a room, that big plotter that's sitting in the hallway down there, because Lori uses that with her maps. And that we would also put a small desk down there with a scanner. He said he had a scanner that he uses at the courts. I don't know. He said it's a good sized scanner and he would put it down there. We had originally talked about a potential high school student, but that's not gonna work now because school's out. By the time we get everything set up, school's gonna be starting again possibly. So no, I have not moved too far ahead on that.
So it sounds like you're gonna have all the equipment though, in the area in the room to do it, so it's a more of a,
It's gonna require a body.
is there times like in the wintertime or certain times of year where you can take your appraisers and somebody could go and work this week, your turn this week, scanning next week is somebody else's turn?
I wished I could say yes, but if I'm fully staffed and we have everybody on board, maybe. But we've been shorthanded for so long and scrambling to try to cover and get everything done that I can't honestly tell you yes at this point. If we bring on 2 new appraisers, we will have 2 people we're training. I've got 2 that are still learning. It takes 5 years. 5 years to become an appraiser and really know what you're doing. I have Sue and I have Anthony. Christy's close. She's at about 4 years.
What about Jennifer?
Jen's she'll be at 2.
She's second year.
Yeah,
Is
she'll
her
be at
second-
2. Her and Noreen will both be at 2. And my new ones, well, they're gonna be brand new. So that's a really hard question for me to answer honestly, because I don't have an answer. It would be wonderful to say I have time and I have staff that I can put somebody in there to do this. But right now, I can't answer that because I don't have staff and I don't have time. But if I can, David and I talked, and I don't know if he's brought this up with you or not in his IT budget. There's a program out there called Data Cloud. And this is the program that it works off of tablets, and I don't know how much the initial sheet. I left
He's
a
bringing
file
it
in
to
my
us at
office.
3.
I think that was under
I left
it.
that file in my, I think it's like 35,000
Oh, yeah.
to get it set up. We got an estimate, a quote for it that's good through the 26th or 29th of next June of 2021. And what it would do is it would be a program that it would take a couple of years to really get it going and working for us, because you can't just step into it and have it. I know
Now,
how
this
to
is
do
for your appraisers used to go out, okay. And I think that's in David's budget.
Yes, yes.
What's
And
IT?
they will be going out in the field and they will be able to do that, but there's gonna be growing pains with it. We wanted to try to go live this year, but number one, there was not the money budgeted for it. And number two, there's still counties, I believe Twin Falls is using it. I know there's a county in Washington that's using it. And there's one more that I can't remember which one it is. It does work with ProVal, which is our program, but there's been some bugs. They're trying to work all the kinks out of it. So we figured we'd let them work all the kinks out,
I haven't seen it in
and then we'd look into getting it.
here. Trying.
So
And it would
hopefully
save-
we are gonna have you in that space July 1st.
It would be, if it was
So you
budgeted, it's
still
gonna be in
have
the
all of
computer
July,
software.
almost all of
$157.
August for a high school kid to come in and
If
work.
we can work it out, I've got the money in my reval
I would have
budget to
Pat,
do it.
I would have Pat put it out there.
Okay.
Oh, what do you think of that?
It'll
Well,
take
I'm trying to,
We're in July 1, there's still all of July and, part of August.
yeah, I think there's money in there to pay somebody right now on a part-time basis.
And one thing that we've got to keep in mind is they will have to be trained on what to scan and what not to get rid of. So I think initially I'd probably have them pretty much scan. I'd rather them scan everything than not cover something.
So how does that process work? Do they go through the files, they say, oh, this has already been scanned? How do they know that? How does anybody know that?
Well, the way it was done before, when back in 2005, Sue Ford, I don't know if any of you remember Sue Ford. Archie brought her back to work a couple of summers. Sue used to do what Dee Dee does, our data entry. So Sue knew what was exactly in our files. What she did is she went through all our files, she cleaned them out, and then she initialed up in the corner on them with her initials and a date so that we knew that file was ready to be scanned. And we were supposed to start scanning.
So
Right
those
now,
files are
that-
marked that you know you have to scan.
Well, that's been 15 years.
Well, one of the issues that I'm starting to hear from is some of the title companies are having a problem doing title searches because they can't get that data off our website because it hasn't been scanned in. And
That
I
doesn't
don't
make
understand
sense.
that process.
That doesn't make sense because they don't.
What do they
they're
do?
looking for are deeds, and those deeds have been scanned. What's in our files are like our notes. They don't. Our notes and our vouchers explaining what we did and why we did it. That's not,
And that's already scanned? That's already,
no. The deeds
oh,
are
I see.
scanned.
So when they do a title search, they're just looking for a clear title?
They're looking for deeds.
They're
And
looking
that's
for
something
anything
I don't
that's
understand that
recorded.
process. So it's
That's
not-
actually Doug's office, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are scanned.
They're recorded.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
anything that's a
excuse me,
recorded
recorded, yes.
document, so.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah,
But
I
you're
don't-
saying some of these that Sue Ford did have already been marked, they just need to be scanned.
Oh, no,
Oh,
they're
it's
15 years old. No, lots changed in 15 years.
Well, I would assume anything
So what
earlier
I'm,
than 15 years, you would scan, but anything older than 15 years,
We
it's
need
already
to
been.
scan it all.
so what I'm hearing from you is, we either take someone that's knowledgeable like Sue was to clean those files before they scan.
That would really
Or
be helpful.
we scan in everything and, there's some that's a document dump, if you will. But it doesn't matter if it's in there, or if it's not.
So
And a
another,
high school student could do that.
Yes.
But is there anyone with, the knowledge and capability of doing it that is
Sue
retired?
Probst.
Sue Probst. Would Sue be willing to come back and do
I
it?
don't know, I haven't asked her about that.
Could you maybe run that
I know
down?
I have to be careful with her Percy. She can only work so much. She can only work 19 hours a week.
19 hours, you can get a lot of
Yeah.
scanning done.
And I would feel much better having Sue Probst do that
And you've
because
got the-
I know that the information that we need would be scanned.
And
So-
you've got the money in your budget now
I
to
do.
do that.
I do.
And
So
where
that would
we're
be a
coming
great-
from,
Great place to start.
Mhm.
so we walked that space with David this morning.
Uh-huh.
So basically, there's gonna be a wall It's right outside the boiler door to the right. There'll be a wall that separates that. It's the only place you have for filing cabinets is gonna be in the DMV side. And I don't know how much space there is. So we need to figure that out so we can get
So I
rid
don't
of some of
think
the
there'll be-
filing cabinets.
There's not gonna be enough space in there for filing cabinets.
Well, that's why I'm saying we've got to get them scanned this summer and get rid of some of the
So
filing
where are we
cabinets.
gonna put the ones that we,
We're gonna have to do something temporarily,
okay?
but we need to get them
Will they be
scanned.
accessible from my office?
Let's
Because we've
find
got
out
to
how
be
many-
able to access them.
Let's find out how many don't fit in there. As soon as we can get the carpet down, we'll
Okay.
move them in. But you're gonna have to prioritize. You know, is there some that you don't get into as much?
Where are they
Which-
gonna put the plotter?
That's another issue. You remember that
And the
little storage
scanner.
room behind DMV? Between there and the boiler?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a whole storage room
There
back
we
there
could,
too.
we could put files in there as well.
Okay,
So I think, it just depends, I don't know how many files. Hopefully we can jam it all together and get it all in
well,
there.
yeah, if we've got that space too, there should be plenty of room. 'Cause
David
I'm
wants
thinking
from the
of where
boiler
we're gonna
door
Put
to-
that plotter.
Back to the east. He wants the center room and then everything on your old office on the right or on the east.
So that
The
plotter
highway
will go
side.
in that room. I don't know how big that plotter will still be able to, we'll have to put the plotter in there and your scanner in that left side in the old DMV space. And
And we-
put filing cabinets around it.
And then we put filing cabinets in that little storage room. But that's kind of holding up the construction now. So we gotta get that DMV carpeted and done so we can move all that stuff out of the north end so they can
Well,
finish.
I figure let's wait and see what we end up with and then, because not to be difficult, I don't see how probably more than maybe 50% of those file cabinets are gonna fit in that DMV room, to be honest.
And the little room
And then in
behind.
that little closet, And then with that scanner and the plotter,
It's gonna be tight.
it's gonna be very tight.
And
And I
Check
question if it'll all fit in there.
Check
I
with
really
Sue
do.
and see if she can start in July and we
Oh,
can just
I will.
start, if she can get rid of five filing cabinets a week, then we get rid of filing cabinets.
5 is a lot.
I was gonna say,
19
I don't think
hours.
she can do that.
Yeah, 19 hours a week,
Mhm.
that's only
No,
3.5, 4
See what
hours a
we
day.
can do that.
yeah.
We gotta get started somewhere.
We gotta,
We have to.
it's like an
But
elephant,
Sue's
one bite at a
Sue's
time.
really, she's a good choice. I would trust her and I would feel very comfortable with her doing that. And then that way when Eliza goes on her leave in January, I can just slide Sue right into helping us in the front office too, because we'll be shorthanded. while
Well, hopefully
Eliza's
by
gone.
then you'll have 2 new appraisers.
Well, I'm talking front office.
Yeah.
Eliza's on her maternity leave. And I'll still need 2 people in my front office.
Okay, that's kind of the goal.
That's the goal.
Okay, so we are done with, because we gotta move on here, with reval. We're all good there?
The only thing was something in the A budget, and I want to point out to you that, and I went through this with Gabby, that I did make some changes, and I know we're not doing A budgets, but I wanted to let you know that I had taken into consideration the difference in my, a starting wage versus a seasoned wage. And my A budget's down probably about $7,000. Because I did take that into account. And I did request and that's another thing, okay? I had requested to raise Sue to $7,500, but do I now need to consider changing that? Do I need to come back with a different figure for that if I'm gonna have her 19 hours? Because when I start my new fiscal year, $7,500 isn't gonna last very long at 19 hours a week.
I don't even know what her pay scale is. How many hours will that get us?
If she can start July 1st,
No, I'm talking when we start the new fiscal year.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but if she starts July 1st, that's in your budget now.
Yes,
She should, if she's working 19 hours a week, by the time that October 1st rolls around, that's July, August, September, 3 months. Is that not enough time to get everything scanned?
I don't think it will be. And there's no guarantee she'll work every week either. She's got things planned if she can ever if it opens up.
So how would you feel if we stuck, say, 20,000 in reval somewhere just for scanning?
That would be.
Be
good
under the A
cushion.
budget, to be a part-time position,
Mhm.
less than 19 hours a week, no benefits.
Well, and if we don't use it, because reval's its own levy, so if we don't use it, then, because,
Do you have a problem with that? I don't know if we have the 20,000, I know that, but
We would have to take a close look at, of how we're budgeting for it.
are we maxed out on the reval levy?
oh, God,
No.
no, far from it. But we don't want to, this is not a year to be really
No.
raising things. My general reval budget is 490 and my new one that I'm proposing is 482. So if we could just go with my reval budget from last year, that would give me about 8,000 extra towards that scanning. And we would just have to try to make it work. I don't really want to be increasing a lot of things this year, if we can avoid it.
So,
We could add 8,000 back into my budget.
so you're saying that you need another 7,000 in the A budget, but your whole budget dropped? I'm not seeing that.
Well, I always
It's in
had Sue
salaries.
Probst at $5,000 a year, and I increased her to 7,500 to help cover me for when Eliza goes on her maternity leave. Under my top part of my budgeted funds, I had 302,287 budgeted. I dropped that down to 291,945 because I'm going to be bringing 2 new appraisers on at starting wages, and that's the difference.
Okay, well, when we get to that point on the A budget, remind us of all this.
Okay.
I would even be willing to jump that 5,000 up to maybe 10,000, because we need to get that scanning done.
Well, and yes.
We
and
really need to get that done. It's,
We do, and if we brought it up to the 15 instead of 10, we'd be right at about the 490.
okay.
I'll figure it out and I'll bring it back.
Yeah, and talk to Sue and see,
I will, I'll talk to her.
see if not. If not, then I say we go out and find somebody else that wants some part-time.
Sue would be the best,
Yep, she'd be awesome if she wants to do it.
because she knows what needs to be done.
Okay, we are out of time, so at this time, we're gonna thank you for your help.
Sure.
Everything looks great. And we will move into our 2:30 agenda item, which is the budget workshop for the extension office. And Melissa is here.
Hi, I'm here.
So come on up, Melissa. Let's see, 0113. Find you first.
I need to go get what you left on my desk.
Melissa had sent us a bunch of information on what that was.
If you want to.
I'll go get it.
You might feel more, I'm not sure how much we're gonna be referencing it, but.
Okay.
Melissa, welcome.
Thank you.
We've got your budget here. I assume these are up-to-date numbers.
Yes.
And the only thing I can really see much difference on is you dropped the AmeriCorps, but you jumped up. Oh, what was it? I lost it. No,
I didn't jump up anything.
no, you didn't.
I
What
just
did I
dropped the AmeriCorps and I dropped the county vehicle mileage from 1,300 to 500. Because last year was our first year with the new policy, and so I didn't change it from the previous year's budget because I didn't know how that was gonna play
Oh.
out with the policy change. But we didn't get close to 1,300 at all, so I'm comfortable dropping that.
You dropped gas and you dropped awards.
Yes, because we're
Everything
not
else
gonna
is the
have
same
an intern or an AmeriCorps.
in AmeriCorps. And how come we're not doing AmeriCorps? They just don't offer it anymore?
No, they do offer it. It's something I could apply for if there was interest from the commissioners, but it's really a lot of extra work and extra steps and it needs to be valued.
Mhm,
And so if
mhm.
it's something that you find of value, then I'm happy to pursue it. I do think it's of value. The timing of the application process is very difficult because they have to start October 1st, and I don't know if the budget is approved until like that week. And so what I have to do is essentially start hiring, going through that whole application process, getting everybody lined up, and then crossing my fingers that the budget is approved so that I can say, yes, I want you. Are you willing to come on board? And so I guess if I was to pursue that, I would love to be able to ease the timing of that process to make it work for everyone so it doesn't feel like such a scramble.
So we have our budget hearing on the 27th. What did we actually,
24th of August.
when
is
do
the
we
budget
actually
hearing.
approve it?
If
The
I-
improvement would not be done until the 8th of September.
So that's as soon as we could do it is no, for sure is the 8th of September.
If I knew by the 8th, then at least it would give me 3 weeks to be able to make that October 1st start date. But
So I would really like to know what programs they would be offering, because how do we decide if we want this person if we don't know what programs they're gonna bring to the community?
so in the past, they've done like adult youth partnership programs. They've done assistance with the Master Gardener program with the Victory Garden series. Because I partnered with PCEI, which is the Palouse Clearwater Environmental Institute, it always had to have some sort of environmental education outdoor focus, which is really easy to tie into most everything, I believe. Like I just have an EE background, so I feel like it's a thread to a lot of what we do. And then they played a primary role in the after-school programming, and they supported Cascade as well as Donnelly. And so going into this fall year too, and not knowing, I mean, hopefully school, it goes back into session. But if it doesn't, then that does mess with the way that this position has contributed in the past. And there is another opportunity on the table to do 4-H AmeriCorps, which then shifts the focus from being environmental education to any kind of 4-H projects. And I meant to bring you a 4-H for sure, because we do actually have those. So I can leave those in your mailbox, but
Honestly, Melissa, my feeling right now, and please correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think there's enough help in 4-H with the fair board members and the family or the parents and stuff. I think we got that covered. My really biggest concern is the after-school program. Because in the mental health stuff, that's when kids get into trouble.
Mhm.
And those are important hours for a lot of kids that age. My feeling is we need to concentrate this AmeriCorps position on that.
well, and that is a bulk of where they have contributed in the past.
And I've heard great things about it.
Yeah, it's an awesome program. And I give you the annual report every year, which summarizes all the community contacts and how they contributed. And they have it usually color coded saying like, this was an adult population, this was a youth population. I'm happy to email those to you for the past 2 AmeriCorps.
My question to you is, you stated it right off the bat, it's a lot of work for you to get this position. And if you want to do it again, or would you like to do it again?
Well,
Because you're the one that has to do the work to get all this put together.
yeah, I'm happy to do it. I want to know that that position is supported by the commissioners. I want to know that it's going to be meeting community need. And I feel like in this COVID era, it's just so hard to plan for the future. So I'm kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen in the fall. And it's not that we can't, like,
Plan for the best case scenario,
yeah.
put that into the universe.
So I'm concerned about your statement about whether commissioners support it. Are you feeling like we don't?
I do feel like it was called into question, and there's no personal, like, if you don't want it, that's fine. But I don't want to have to feel like I have to make an argument for it because to me, it's clear that it has value and that it serves a community need. But if that's not clear to the commissioners, then either I'm not telling the whole story or I'm not giving you the information that you need, but I'm not wanting to continue to push it if it's something that has been, questioned on the value previously. So I guess it's just wanting to have an honest conversation on, is that of value to Valley County? And with my meeting this morning, with the statewide extension director. They just said that the statewide advisory council was wanting some additional training from all extension staff around the state about suicide prevention. And so that kind of pulls on to like what you just said. You know, there could actually be a really bigger need than ever to engage youth moving forward. So
Okay, no, the year before we did a little over 4,000. Last year we did 8,400 because there wasn't a match. I'm trying to remember why we had to double that.
I started that effort. And so essentially, because it was new and different, I was able to get the University of Idaho to take a third of that leg. And then the AmeriCorps program was launched statewide. And so because it started in Valley County, it was new and different. I could mobilize them to be a partner in that effort. And then they were like, oh my gosh, AmeriCorps is great. Look at all the work that we can get done with this awesome deal. And it's just a good program. And so basically that program is available statewide now. And so the university is not providing a third of the leg for all the state offices. And so now it's, if you want that program, then the commissioners need to support the full-time AmeriCorps.
Full-time deal, yeah.
The
I
other
remember
thing that could happen is that if community organization wanted it, or if a school system wanted it, then through that 4-H program, they could also contribute to the funding.
So let me give you a hypothetical. If we decide to go ahead and budget the 8,400 for it again,
Mhm.
we reach the end of the budget, we don't have the funds. Is that too late for you not to go out for it? You won't go out for that position until you know the budget is cleared, correct?
Well, the beauty of that position thus far has been that I've been able to capture a really highly qualified, educated, talented person coming out of the McCall Outdoor Science School. And so my hiring pool is very competitive. And it's been easy just to be able to like kind of throw that opportunity out to those graduates and say, hey, anybody want to continue to work in Valley County and work with youth and make a meaningful contribution to youth development? So it hasn't been as hard to find those applicants as it could be. And so, yeah, I could move forward and throw that opportunity out there and let people know that it's all pending on that September 8th date. And then say, yay, it's a go, or no, it's a not at that
So
point.
then we just have to decide if we want to spend the money for that person.
Yes.
How many hours did we get for that?
40 hours a week,
For 3 months?
11 months.
Or was it 11
It's
months?
an amazing deal.
$400?
It's an amazing deal. So this person
Yes.
basically, they're not
That's a
getting,
no-brainer.
no, I did 2 years of AmeriCorps. So I also have a personal commitment to the program simply because the way I view it is like serving 2 years, serving your country. So it's like in Israel where you can like do community service or you can join the army. AmeriCorps essentially is your way of being able to give back to your community. And so it's 2 years of service. And when we hire that person into it, we say like, don't look at this as a job, because if you do, you're going to burn out and you're not going to make it to the end. This is a year of you being able to provide volunteer service to your community of choice. You'll get professional development along the way. You'll make networking, you'll make ties, you'll make connections. You'll build your portfolio, your professional development opportunities. So they do get something out of it, and they get an educational stipend to pay back their student loans. But it's really, they have to be intrinsically motivated to serve, to make the 11-month commitment to do 40 hours per week, living in poverty.
So what has happened to your old AmeriCorps? Have they gone on and done other things? Or-
So Bree is acting as the Pay It Children's Forest is a non-profit, but it doesn't have an official paid executive director. Leslie Freeman works for grant writing underneath the umbrella of the Pay It Children's Forest. And so Bree is actually like the acting executive director for that nonprofit right now. She's also working on trying to find employment. I believe she's applied for the McCall Public Library as well. I don't know if I'm allowed to say any of that, but she's working to find
late.
employment in McCall at different places. And I know because she's used me as a reference.
Be careful, you're on camera also.
Okay, yeah, so she's applied for different places in our community to stay here. And then the first AmeriCorps that we had, she wasn't out of Moss as a graduate student, but she worked for their camp program over the summer. She was Josie.
Josie.
She was amazing. She had a knack for facilitation in high conflict meetings. She really thrived in the Big Creek Yellow Pine Collaborative. She is young. And so she's kind of doing the seasonal job thing right now. And I think she's going to be paddling on the Salmon River in Reagan's. And so that's what might going to be her summer employment. But they all do have a connection to Valley County after that experience. And they all are very qualified, talented, educated people that I think Valley County would be fortunate to have if they made this their home.
So is the ask still $8,400?
It is, as far as I can know, through the Palouse Clearwater Environmental Institute.
So what I would like to do is go ahead and budget for that position. If we can afford it, which we'll know on the 8th of September, then you can find somebody to come on ASAP after that. Would that be all right?
Yep, and I'll float it out to the community and then make a targeted pitch to the Moss graduates.
Well, and I guess my emphasis is on the after-school program.
Yeah, and that's primarily why I went after that funding to begin with. That Donnelly development opened 2 years ago, and so I figured there'd be more populations there that might need support for after school to be able to make their parents be able to work their jobs and whatnot. But when I think about after school programming, it's not just it really is an education focused. When the educators go, they have a lesson plan, they have outcomes, they have learning goals, they scaffold their learning throughout the year, they have themes, they have focus. And so it's a blend of keeping the kids engaged through fun, hands-on activities and like little snippets of information for learning content. So with the nature of after-school program, it's you have to make it a perfect balance of learning and fun. And that's what the people in this position have been doing.
So Sherry, are you good with that?
I'm good with that. Yeah, I think it's a great use.
Okay.
I do have a question. So I was looking at, and unfortunately I was not able to be at the meeting where we all discussed all the contracts.
Mhm.
And the U of I contract actually has a lot of option 1 and option 2 within the contract.
Mhm.
So in your budget, have you gone with option 1 or option 2, or is it a blending of everything? So when we get to a contract again, how does that look like in the budget?
So the last year was the first year that they came up with a standard extension agreement. Because for 100+ years, extension was, on an agreement of the kind of more vocal agreement.
A handshake.
Yeah, a handshake. So last year they said these are kind of the arrangements that are happening statewide. Craft this arrangement to meet the way that it's currently working in your county. And so that's what I did. So if you want to know kind of what options are being in play right now, look at the 2019-2020 SEA. And then I gave you the blanket SEA to then be able to see all the different options. So then you would know, oh, well, this is the way we've been doing it, but I'm curious about the option A. And so I guess there are some pretty different alternatives to how you can partner with extension in that document. And so if you're interested in exploring any of those, I think we should do a workshop and I can invite Pat up and we can talk more about what that SEA might look like for 2020, 2021. But yeah, like if you have questions about what that looks like too, ask me specifics.
I was just curious if you'd gone with option 1 and budgeted everything accordingly, or if you did it as option 2 and budgeted accordingly.
I didn't
Or-
print that document, so I can't,
Okay.
I don't know what options is what right now because I don't have that in my head.
Okay.
The way that we've done it in our county is that the Valley County has provided the budget for supporting staff as well as office functions.
And then
Sure.
U of I paid your salary.
Yeah, they pay my salary and you contribute $1,500 towards my salary.
Mhm.
Some of the other, I don't know what other options you're referencing. I think you had mentioned something about making everybody a university employee at one point. I think the university takes a 3% on that for a service
No, I'm
charge.
making I thought it would, well, I could be wrong. They're making you a county employee. They reimbursed us for that salary. And then if there was a bump or a raise, we had to make up that difference. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's flipped. I think
Maybe it is.
everybody would be university and you would cut a check to the university and they would charge you a 3% transactional fee
Is that what it was?
to manage the whole shebang.
To me, it's kind of an evolving contract right now. We're all trying to kind of figure out what each other wants.
Yeah.
And I apologize for not getting that done quicker, but it was like, this is too new. We need to really go slow here and take a look at this.
And basically, nothing is new in that document from the way that I filled it out. It's just written down now.
It's just written down. We didn't know this, we didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so if there is something that you want to change, there's opportunity to do that.
Well, there was some concern about some other folks in the facility that thought we were giving them way too much money, but after looking at it, it's stuff we've been doing forever.
Yeah,
All, like you said, all we did is we just wrote it down.
Right.
So we all know what each other's responsible for, and I think that's a good idea.
yeah, I do too. I think transparency is
Right.
what I always strive for. And I think writing it down maybe provided some transparency, and people that didn't know maybe knew a little bit more. And I don't know, you
And
know,
I would suggest you and Sherry maybe sit down and go through that
okay,
together, the different options, and see kind of where we're matching and where we're not.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot.
Yeah,
There's a
we
lot
need
in
an
that
airport
document.
for $8,400, that's just a no-brainer.
Well,
But I-
especially when you hear back from the staff at school and some of the parents, it's like, man, we really like that.
and it's been it's, you know, when the good thing is known and discovered, it starts to spread. And so it has actually, like, this AmeriCorps position, it's not new to Valley County. I came here with an AmeriCorps too. But somehow I think it got lost, and then we brought it back. And so when I had my AmeriCorps, I was talking to Moss, and then they got 2 AmeriCorps, and they're actually doing in-school programming to enhance the learning with teachers with their 2 AmeriCorps. But the cool thing has been is that we've been able to pull their AmeriCorps to be like that second adult for after-school programming. And what I find is that there's more need than there's people to serve it. And so those AmeriCorps have been really great to be able to plug into that need.
Plus, we have an amazing pre-K program this year that I'd like to talk to you a little bit about too. So maybe this person can help with that too.
Yeah, there's one in Donnelly as well as Cascade, I believe, the pre-K programs.
Well, this one's gonna come from the state. We just got $70,000 to increase and improve our pre-K programs.
So you could actually get an AmeriCorps dedicated to that project because it's
We need
teaching.
to talk.
Yeah, you could get a couple of AmeriCorps, and that would be a great way to staff that out. You'd have annual turnover, but people can serve 2 terms if they choose to, but usually after 1 year, people are like, I need a real job.
So Melissa, on the one line, you have a comment about budget for additional phone line, Ask IT. Have you done that?
I have, yeah.
And have they said the 240 was enough?
Oh, no, the 240 is for supplementing Allison's cell phone. We don't have money written into the budget. I don't know if there's money associated with that. I feel like David with IT would probably be running
So
that.
this
into
is
his
another
budget.
phone line or another cell phone?
We only have 1 line that comes into the office. And so while we could be there fully staffed, the perception could be that no one's there. And simply because if I use the phone and someone else calls in, it goes to the answer machine. And so oftentimes we'll use our cell phone so that we don't tie up the office phone so that someone can call in. And so it's just like, it's a shame to have everybody be there, to be fully staffed, and then to have people call the office and be like, oh, I just called and you weren't there. And
So
you're like, no,
I'm
I wasn't, we were here. Just leave a
gonna
message.
ask you to run that one down and find out from David how much the extra phone line would be.
Okay.
And then get back with Gabby and we can change that number. I don't think it's gonna be much more, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know we just did it at DMV and it was, do you remember?
We already have the 2 lines. They just.
They just turned one on.
Yes. Yeah, we have the 2 lines.
So- And that may be the situation here. It just gotta be turned on, but I think that's great because I think that is some of that misperception people have, like, call them, there's nobody there. Like it's their answer machine, but you guys are there, it's just somebody's using the phone, so that would be a good thing to do,
I agree.
ASAP.
Yeah.
So if you want to run that down with David and let us know if there is more, when we get down to the final budget, we can change that number.
And then we've also just kind of on infrastructure with building, we called Sparklight to see if, they said that they wouldn't serve across the track, but we're like right there at the railroad, but we have patchy internet, comes on and off. And so that's a challenge.
We all have patchy internet.
It's a challenge. But I was like wondering if Sparklight was like the promised land. So I was just gonna
You
investigate
mean
using a different.
Ziply?
No, the
Oh, you're
other,
going with Cellular One Sparklight.
we're currently with Ziply, but I was curious if the other service provider might offer services just to see if it was different. So I'm investigating that possibility too
David,
for our office.
since you're here, how much money would it cost to turn on a second phone line and extension?
Probably not very much.
A month?
We had talked about that.
$50 a month?
No. I'd have to look. I think it wouldn't be very much to extend that.
The issue they're having is if someone's on the phone, it automatically goes to an answering machine, so people don't think there's anybody there.
You know, one of the things we talked about, we never got to it, but was extending the county's phone system too. Remember we talked about that, using a point-to-point wireless. We tested that a number of years ago and it works. But we had some concerns about our internet speed basically, from the road department. But that might be changing.
That's where I just went after the phone conversation. I was like, oh yeah, and internet.
And that could extend too. I mean, there's no real need unless you want it to be separate for that to be separate, right? It can be segregated logically on the network. From the road department, there's a tower over there we looked at some years ago, that little radio tower. That you put a wireless device on, point it right to the back, the west side of your building there, and then just provide internet.
And then that, if we ever move out to another, you can take that with us, correct?
Depends on where they go. There needs to be a line of sight for that sort of thing, you know. You could do a
Oh,
line of
okay,
sight to the-
okay.
to the lead.
But I mean, we could take it off that building if we end up building another facility
Yeah.
somewhere
But
later.
for right now, the quickest thing would be another phone line, right? The other stuff is,
And you're saying it's gonna be another $50 a year?
I'll double check. It's not gonna be very much. I'd have to look for sure. Look at the bills and the financials.
Okay, so then I'm gonna recommend we change that number to 300.
So would you write that into your budget or should I write it into mine?
I think it comes out of just the general fund.
Or is it not an IT?
No, not the phone systems and cell systems come out of just the 118.
Is that where you wanna change it, Gabby? Where do you want it?
I don't
think
This is,
That's why, no.
for this one though, let me think about it just at least a day because a lot of the operations, we lease that building, right? And it's not included in this. I need to look at the billing for it before we make a determination. What we'll do is we'll make a notation that if in fact a new phone is obtained at the University of Idaho office, we'll need to budget for it. And then we'll inform the commissioners of where we believe is the right place to budget for that.
Well, I think it's kind of important, Doug, because there is a perception out there that all I get is an answering machine. So hopefully that
Well,
will.
there is voicemail. People can leave them messages and then those, I mean, these are the devil's advocate.
Mhm.
Well, that's how we've been doing it.
And it's been operating.
Yeah.
So
Makes too
again,
much sense. I'm sorry.
I'm
That
not
doesn't-
to burst everyone's bubbles, and you're right, we have several phones at our office, and you guys only have one dedicated line. What the first step, though, that needs to be done is, I think you've taken that step, reach out to IT to see if it's possible, and then move forward from there.
Okay. Then we are, I guess, we'll throw the 8,400 back in for AmeriCorps and we're done. Is that correct?
Mhm. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Do you want me to follow up for a meeting or do you want to reach out when you have time?
Let me reach out,
Okay.
because I don't know what it looks like. right now.
Okay,
Get on my calendar.
we
Thank
got,
you.
we got to move on to our next agenda item, which is prosecutor. Did Carol or CA give you guys a budget?
We have a budget for them that
Okay,
the
which one is
requested
that?
amounts are, you do have
The 107.
107, and we can do it on their behalf if you would like. I think
Oh, I have it, yeah. And they dropped it.
She reduced quite a few things,
Quite a few things.
mostly training, travel.
we are, excuse me, to speak and then not. We're aware that we're budgeting for a new prosecuting attorney coming in. So we did work with Carol directly to find out what her request would be if she would continue to maintain office. And these were the requests that were submitted to us.
Doug or Gabby, where do we put in for the expense for, is that the contracts other for outside attorneys?
That's correct.
You dropped her education other budget pretty far from what was prior.
Yeah, considering that last year she spent almost 4,400 there.
And then they went to, my understanding, if my recollection is correct, is they both attended a jury trial training that they had not participated in before. So that was a significant expense.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Our new prosecutor hitting the ground in January, they're not gonna have a whole lot of time to do anything other than get their feet wet next year.
That's
so.
kind of,
Yep.
again,
Yep.
budgeting. You do have to take that into consideration that
I have a question. I probably should have brought it up in my budget, but it just kind of hit my head.
That was your hand.
I know. We have sometimes we hire employment attorneys to do an investigation or to help us with employment-related type things. Should that be under the prosecuting attorney's office, or should that be under the employee, HR? That may be a question for Doug as well. Because we didn't do that in my budget, but it might be a good time to look at it before we get.
I've always understood that was under the prosecutors. Any outside attorneys were under
I don't
that.
know.
That one contracts other.
Who initiates the review?
Well, it depends, Carol's been incredibly involved with that kind of thing, but other prosecutors have not been. So in the case of the last investigation that we had, second to the last, anyway, in the case of hiring Kurt Naylor, I initiated the whole thing. And then in the investigation that we had before you came on by an outside attorney, again, I initiated it. I think though that what she was looking at is if it goes through the prosecuting, if at least the conversations go through the attorney, there's a client attorney privilege, but there
Got it.
should be anyway. If we hire an attorney to take care of something for us, it shouldn't matter where it comes from, right? Or am I looking at?
No, I think we're okay where way we're doing it now.
Okay.
But there may be times where you might have to go to the prosecutor and say, I need to initiate this investigation and you need to find me an attorney.
And that's what I'm the one that goes out and finds stuff, it doesn't matter, I just want to.
Gabby,
So
Doug,
we're-
any recommendations there?
I think it should be budgeted in the prosecuting attorney's office. I
Okay.
really do. I think that, but.
And you're good with the 25,000?
That's Carol. Contracts other.
She's gonna go over this year.
She was well under that the last few years.
But she's going over this year?
15 and 17. This year, when I did this, she was right on, but I don't know if she's done more since then.
Does that go up to our last investigation?
This was just through April, so
No. So then we're gonna be over on that.
she used to have 30 and she reduced it to 25 for 2020.
What do you want to do, Doug?
I think 25,000 is
Okay.
appropriate.
If you're happy with it, I'm happy
Yeah,
with
I
it.
think for next year, fiscal year 2021, the 25,000 was recommended by the prosecuting attorney. And I think it will be sufficient.
And with this new prosecutor, you don't know what all he can do and what he can't do. So maybe he can take on some of this stuff on his own. Save us some money, so. Okay, then we're good on prosecutor. I guess that's it.
That's all the budget workshops that were scheduled for today, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Mopin.
Okay, so then, I'm gonna get out of this. The next item on our agenda is a 3:00 action item. This is Office 365 policy approval. Just three different things, David, or is it one thing?
It's three different things. One of them is mislabeled. It's not there's no quotes there's no formalized quote. It was to
whether or not we should get that quote to move to a faster internet connection for our remote locations and the main head speed right here.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't listen first. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's three things. It's Outlook, Office 365 policy. So we can determine what should and shouldn't be stored on our cloud services that we purchased recently. And then also secure it through classification of some of the types of data that we might put on there. And then multi-factor authentication. That's what we're looking at there with this policy.
Okay, so that does, is that the WAN quotes too? Is that all part of this or is that
These are
another?
three separate things. You're
Three
right
separate
about
things.
that. Yep, three separate things. And they just all came one at a time. Two of them made a lot of sense to go together, the faster internet and the policy for our Office 365 are which is one of our cloud storage solutions. But
So do you have the policy there? Do you
I do.
email
I
us the
emailed
policy?
it.
or- Yeah, I'd like to see it.
and then
if
I
you don't
printed
mind.
off a copy.
Mr.
Just
Chairman, it did get
Is
emailed.
it?
Yeah, he did email it
When-
You want a paper
Oh, it's
copy?
this morning.
this morning,
This morning? Okay, so it's probably hasn't even opened yet.
but he does have
And
a
it's
paper
in
copy
the-
that he was trying to bring up too.
Yeah, I would take that, Dave, until I find it.
Commissioner's email.
No,
It's
I
not
didn't
in
get
your-
it. See?
It's not in your personal one, it's in that group email.
So it'd be an Outlook? Can you give me a minute or two,
Oh,
please?
of course, yeah. Which,
Office 365, WAN internet, OneDrive for business, live scan, WAN internet cost, that's what I have. I'm missing one.
when you get to it, while you're getting to it anyways, this policy right here is taken from some of the stuff that's provided by the NACO group that I belong to, as well as IAC group that I belong to. So we didn't have to write it from scratch. We just kind of combined pre-existing practices that people do that seem to work well for them. The big difference here, kind of as you're reading that, to think about, in the past when we stored our documents, they've been on site. So they're protected in a number of different ways. Now they're off-site, and we need some different protections in place, administrative kind of policy protections and technical protections like multi-factor authentication, so that people just aren't going in and grabbing them, or people aren't sharing that information and not knowing that it can be reshared, and that's those sorts of things.
So I apparently didn't get anything on Outlook.
I have paper copies of all the material that's sent too.
Multi-factor authentication. Very good.
So David, just give us a synopsis of,
So
all this does is protect offsite storage, correct?
yeah, protects it. It defines the way we use it. It defines the types of things that are acceptable to be stored on it, how we should retain that based on our current retention policy that's published on the website that was adopted by the commissioners just a few years ago, I think. So it defines how we use it and how we protect it, really is the nuts and bolts of it. And
So when
without
would
that,
we use multi-factor authentication?
why would we, or?
When would we?
We would use it in every case when we're off-site. I use it across the board in my personal life, and we used it on the old email system as well. It gives you another layer of protection where somebody can't just log into that account if they happen to guess your password. They actually have to have something in their hands, which they won't have, like your phone, in order to give that extra layer of protection.
It'll actually ask for a code.
Yeah, you can
Password.
text it or have a little app that generates that code. It's pretty standard now with everywhere across the board. You see it in banking and you see it in government a lot. It's really anymore the recommended basic standard if you're going to have data hosted offsite and want to give it that extra layer of protection. So this really defines how we use that and how we protect that and what types of, how we look at data. Some of the stuff that we share and put up on the cloud isn't necessarily the end of the world if it was exposed or, we had a data leakage or something like that. Some of it is, and we do want to take care of that. We also want to make sure that we don't lose data inadvertently because this is, once again, it's sort of out of our control when we move to a service like this. Prior, we'd have that data internally, and unless we took action to get rid of it, it's there. We have that with a lot of our systems. They just kind of build up data, and that's why we got that retention policy in, so we could go through and clean that up. With this, it's automated by the vendor, Microsoft in this case, so after a certain period of time, it's going to go through and clear out that stuff. So we need some protocol in place, process, policy in place to show what we need to do to keep that data and protect it as we need to for the public.
Is there an expense to this?
No.
Or just an approval?
This is just an approval, and it's extension of some of the existing kind of security and retention stuff. It just addresses this particular use in particular. And Pat's had a chance to go through this and look at it. We work together on this as well, and as with all policy.
So is that going to eventually be for us as well?
Yes, I would hope so. Yeah, you want to protect you guys and everybody as much as possible, and not just have imagine somebody getting into an account that, I don't know, law enforcement used and just going through it. And it also kind of makes it clear to the employee that they need to be careful about how they utilize this new tool. It's a really great tool for collaboration and for continuity's sake, like we were talking about earlier, I think, probably with strategic plan, continuity, and if we have another disruption, because like we did just recently with the pandemic, this gives the people to more easily access files and work remotely. But we need those mechanisms in place to protect it, and this is one of those mechanisms, is defining how to use it.
So David, this won't affect people still being able to get on our website and looking for information, parcel numbers or taxes?
No, this is entirely
This is
separate.
all
Yeah, that's all public data that doesn't need any kind of
Okay.
access or to get into. This is just for your files, the files that we have, our email, and the Office products that we're using, because they're hosted in a
the
different
cloud.
place. Yeah,
Yeah.
in a different
This
city.
allows us, once we have this in place, we can start using SharePoint.
Yeah, we can. I mean, I would hope that the other
Technologies out
part of
there.
this is the broadband thing, or the internet thing I'm going to bring up next. But yeah, those are kind of key things to using those more broadly. Yes, this one of those things where it's, yes, once we have this place, then we have that tool in place to say, okay, we can start using it. Here's how to use it. And then the other thing's the other thing. But yeah.
Okay,
I
so
move
there we go.
to approve Office 365, our new policy.
A second. Any more discussion? Pat, you had something to say? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item up is also an action item, decision and approval of the internet WAN quotes.
Yeah. And that's not actual quotes. It's do you want to pursue this and go and get the
Pursue the
quotes?
quotes.
Right. And the spreadsheet was much bigger than what I provided you here. This was a synopsis of the spreadsheet. It was a lot more complicated. But the gist of it is we need a better internet connection to the world, and we need a better connection to our remote offices. I can give you a couple examples with the remote offices just recently. We want to move e-claims out so people aren't bringing paper claims into the clerk's office. And we've been working on that for a while. The sheriff's office uses it, IT uses it, but we needed to expand it. We wanted to expand it at the McCall Annex, and we had installed that the other day. We couldn't get it to work, essentially because of connectivity. The speed's not quick enough for that to access that data here, because the data is located here, and make that connection through the little program that does that. So it would time out from the network. When we did our WAN connections, which is our wide area network connections to the road department and to McCall Annex some years ago, the best we could do is what we have now. That was the best offering we had at the time. And those were the best speeds we could get at the time. And I don't even think at the time it was based on money. It was just what was available. We can get much better now, particularly with the increased use of video and these kind of tools. It's really putting a strain on our current infrastructure, our speed to the outside world, but also our interdepartmental speed, basically, which is our WAN connection. So we talked about looking at this, and we've known this for a number of years. This was going to come up. But a couple of years ago, we looked at going away from what we had to and upgrading, but we didn't really get it pulled off. I can't remember the exact reasons. So with what happened and is happening in March, we talked about soliciting quotes again and seeing what we could what there was out there, and we went to Sparklight and to Ziply, and they both returned quotes. And ultimately, our best bet for an immediate kind of thing would be going with Ziply. They've offered a package that would give us much better speed. We have copper coming into the building right now. They would build fiber into the building and fiber into those locations at a much higher speed. It's just a matter of if we want to do it, and then what cost do we feel comfortable doing, and how long of a contract do we feel comfortable doing? Because it may change, the offerings may change down the road. There may be different things available in a couple few years that aren't available right now. So
So David, is part of this quote then to replace that copper line with fiber optics into the building?
yeah, in all three cases, yeah. in all
Oh, it
three
is?
cases. What's that?
That it is then, so.
It is, yeah, and they're
okay.
gonna foot the cost of that. I mean, depending on how you look at it, but they're gonna foot the cost of that. That's why we're talking about the U of I being there. We can't really increase, add more to that circuit. I mean, we can, but it just bogs down. Same thing with, we're rolling out new phones at the annex there. But we're also running video in a way that we never ran video at the annex there. So those things are conflicting big time. So some sort of upgrade seems warranted at this point, at least. I would say immediately, really, but for this next budget year, it's going to take a little while for these things to get in place. It might be 60 to 90 days to actually build that stuff out. It's not very long connections that we're talking about, so it's not like a.
So we're talking the annex, the courthouse, and what's the third one? Jail?
No, the road
Road
department.
department.
Road
Do we have
department.
30 right now?
What's that?
Do we have 30 right now?
Yeah, so we have 30 mile an hour connection, 30 megabit connection. The different offerings we have here, you can see are 100, 500, 300, 500, and 1,000.
So then we're approving you to go out for those bids today.
If you want, yeah. We've already got the bids. This would be getting a formal quote from the one
Oh,
that I
okay.
think was our best choice. I don't
Okay.
think, as the Sparklight offering that we had is similar pricing, but only for our network connections to the outside world. They don't have the ability to do what we need with our interdepartmental connections.
And this is Ziply.
That's Ziply, yeah. This one is Ziply. My recommendation would be to go with the biggest pipe we can to the outside world, and then whatever you feel comfortable with to the interdepartmental connections.
No,
Anything we
we-
do on that level is going to be light years ahead of what they have right now, because it's a 10 mile an hour connection to McCall
Ooh.
and a 10 mile an hour connection to a road department. So if you look at that lowest offering there, that's a 100 mile an hour connection to those things, and that'll improve their video, their phone, and file sharing. Odyssey they have Odyssey, which is actually hosted by the Supreme Court, but comes to the building here. They're now using that at the probation department. And that's another one we knew it, right? It would be a stretch to run that over that 10 mile an hour connection. We've been doing it. But if you run that program and run court cases over that 10 mile an hour connection, and then you do some video on top of that, and you maybe copy some files or share something on SharePoint or OneDrive, you can bring that connection to a whole.
The wheel of
pretty-
death, don't they call it the wheel of death?
Spinning wheel, something like that, yeah. But it
So
really
then-
just maxes out the connections. It's not all the
Call
time,
it a headache.
but yeah.
So then your goal is to come up with a cost to do this, and then we're gonna put that in the budget for next year.
Right, yeah, for next year. And they could start with approval, knowing that we're budgeting for it, and start building that. If you look at the upper right, the 1 gig plan, 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year, that's 100 megabit connection at each location. So that's 10 times what they have. I would love to go a gig everywhere. I don't know if you guys want to do that. That's the down to the bottom right of your spreadsheet there.
And I don't have that spreadsheet. I
Oh,
don't
I have a
even
copy.
have the emails, so.
That'd be 100,000 a year.
Yeah,
for
for
1
1 year and 3 years, 60.
So
we
tell
can
me, so I see, okay, top line shows 100 MB, and then right above that is 1 year 100, 3 year 100, 5 year 100,
Yeah, so
1 year 200. So how do we get 200 under that 100 category?
and you don't really, I mean, you want the head speed to be more.
So the green line is what we're shooting for.
Yeah, the green line, so really, I would say my recommendation would be to the far 3 right columns that say 1 year gig speed, 3 year gig speed, 5 year gig speed, from top to bottom. I think that's really where we should be looking. And it really is I know it's a confusing spreadsheet, but the other one was even worse. But if you go from that first top right choices, you've got a 1 year gig connection with a 100 at each location for 31,000,
And
a
how
3
does
year.
that impact internally here? When you're saying extensions, but what about the courthouse?
Courthouse would be a gig. Courthouse would be
Okay. got
the
it.
big pipe, which would allow for a lot of other things with law enforcement. We're doing a lot more with law enforcement remotely and with web-based services, so that would help that out quite a bit. So yeah, the big pipe would be those 3 columns to the right, and then those remote connections from top to bottom 1, 3, 5, and 1.
Got it.
And then it's just a matter of what do you want to do. The 3-year ones, you can see they make it more attractive. It drops quite a bit from 1 to 3.
So knowing that we're working on broadband for the entire region.
Right.
And may or may not get something.
Yeah.
Would your recommendation be that we go with a shorter contract, like the 3-year?
Yep.
Because I think we need to go longer than a year. There's no way we build it out in a year anyway.
Yeah,
So a 3-year, potentially, something else could happen.
absolutely. I think that's the probably our best bet. And it is kind of a bet, right? We really have a strong chance that something can occur. It's not going to be overnight. And the 1-year cost is higher than the 3. So yeah, that would be,
Potentially more.
yeah. And if you look at that and you just think, I usually keep in these terms, just go as big as you can. I know that sounds kind of dumb maybe, but it future-proofs you. You don't have to readdress the issue. We've been working with that 30-mile-an-hour connection fairly effectively. That was a big connection way back when, before we started doing all these different things and expanding our network. So yeah, I think you wouldn't want to go long. You'd want to go as short a term as you can, but with the idea that something else might be available. Whether that's the 1 or 3, that's sort of a commissioner's choice, I think, there.
So the 3-year, we can get for $23,000 a year, and that gives them 200.
Yep.
Is that, so they're functioning at 30. Do we really need to take that large of a jump? But it's only 3,000 more than giving them 100.
No, you don't. I mean, they're actually at 10, so you're giving them 20 times that speed. The only difference there is if we utilize the McCall NX for offsite backups, it's not as quick, but I wouldn't recommend. I said this before. If you leave it to any one of our departments or offices, we want to do the best job we can and have 8 servers and 8 redundant connections and gigawatts.
You're an IT guy.
Yeah, gigawatt speed
Way over
everywhere.
the top.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's a reasonable course, is to look at what 200's great. Gig here is fantastic. I think that would work. I think the 100 would work too. As the more, the better in general, but I think any of those will work with a top end here.
I'm sitting here looking at it, I do,
36,000.
maybe I'm not seeing this right, but I do the 5 years for all of them, it's $130,100.
Right.
That's an awesome deal, isn't it?
It is, but getting into that longer of an agreement, if things change here, in the community and other the broadband.
Oh, if somebody brought it in,
Yeah, if different opportunities came in, you're locked into that. And that does happen. I mean,
We're working on a strategy for the region also through the new funds
you
that are
think
just
they'll-
coming out.
oh, that's,
We have the ability to potentially get 3 to 5 million this year by the end of the year. That can make a huge difference here, but that wouldn't be an overnight build up. Like I
No.
said, maybe a 3-year plan would still be the better way to go. And if you look at the difference between a 3-year plan and a 1-year plan, for the 100 megabyte, it's not even $1,000 a year difference, or $1,000 a month difference. Is that a yearly fee or a monthly fee?
that's the yearly. The other spreadsheet was all monthly costs and all broken out by location, whatever is maddening. That's a yearly cost for all 3 locations.
So the difference between 3 and 5 years, I mean, it's not even saving us $1,000 on any of those.
so you're saying go for the 3-year on all of them?
Go for the 3-year and just do the 100. So this would be our cost. Go the 3-year. And this is 10 times what they currently have
Right,
anyway.
right.
So to jump it to that, I mean, it is an extra $3,000, but I mean, that's 20 times faster than they have right now. I think even if we went with that one.
And keep
would
in mind,
give
and
them
something I forgot to point out, is we're currently paying about $13,000 for our connection right
Wow,
now.
so
So
it's not-
that subtract that from that amount. So
Got it.
it's not as big. So maybe that would change your calculus a little bit, but subtract 13 in your mind, I guess, from any of those. So that would be in the 3-year, 1 gig range, an additional $7,000 a year to go up
So-
to.
I think I would go longer and I think I would go higher if I didn't know that there's already another project out there where we're trying to make change.
Yeah, and that's really where I am with that too. It's sort of a bet, not in this case, but it's a bet on, when that happens, does it happen? How quickly does that happen? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely keep that in mind in your decision making and what we have. I think if you make a choice to go with any of these, I think it's the right choice, and I think we'll be better off regardless of what happens. This doesn't lock us into those speeds. We can increase them, because once that fiber is in the ground, you can build upon that and increase the speeds. And it also could help out the community in other ways, having more fiber in the ground. But that's not why we're doing this or why
But
I'm,
we'll still have 1 gig here no matter what.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
gonna be-
100, megabyte to everybody else, and that's so much faster than they're already worth. And
it's going to be dramatic.
until they use that in an appropriate way and find other, things that they need that speed for, there's
Yeah.
no reason to pay for something they're not going to utilize.
Right. It's going to be a dramatic change. And I think there's a lot of things we're doing right now, a lot of data that we're pushing in. There'll be more GIS data that we're constantly pushing up to the cloud for the assessors, right? We're updating or CARE's updating their data and we're uploading that. We're going to be doing similar things soon, I hope, for the online tax things, maps and notices that we've been talking about for a number of months and kind of delayed on that for different reasons. But this would be one of those things where that would dramatically improve that process. Some of these things that we do take days. If you look at this and even what comes to the community down the road, this sets us up for making a transition to fully moving things to the cloud. We can't even think about like having some of our servers in the cloud, really not in a real practical way at this point. So if you make it just any of these choices, I think it's a good choice.
Well,
for the county.
my feeling, I don't know why, is the 5-year 1 gig for 22,000. I think that's worth the risk, even if they bring something else in. That's still, if you take the $7,000 off we're spending now, that's still really reasonable. And then we've got it locked in for 5 years,
That's the 200 meg.
and that's the 200 megs. Am I not seeing something here?
No,
That
I
to
mean,
me-
it's exactly what Commissioner Moppin said, and what you're saying is true too. I mean, but if there is another offering here in a year or two,
we take that risk as, losing out on a better deal, but this is still a heck of a deal, I think.
yeah, and that's why luckily
But we're only saving $1,300 for the extra 2 years. I mean, it's not a huge
So-
savings,
Yeah,
and it locks us into 2 years. I just think that there will be something else happening. There's supposedly something happening with
there's a lot.
one.
Yeah, there's a lot
this
going on
spring.
right now,
There's a
and-
lot
so you
going
just
on
want
right
to do the 3-year 1 gig.
now. Well, the 3 or 200. I mean,
Yeah.
that's another $3,000.
Any of those are going to
And
be
can they use it?
Yeah. Any of those are going to be
Biggest
dramatic, and we can use
savings.
even the 2 meg circuit or whatever. We can use that to move some stuff off site,
We
copies
can.
of things.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not. It just changes the timeline of that. Let's say it's from I don't know. Let's throw one out there. So from 15 minutes to an hour or so to do that backup or something like that, for
Okay.
depending on the size of the thing I'm talking about. I don't want to get into details, but
So do you want to make the motion?
David, do you want the 100 or the 200?
I would go bigger, 200 if you're going to do that, and then we'll get the quote.
I move that we approve the internet LAN quotes of 200 megabyte off-site, 1 year, 1 gig on-site for the 3-year term.
I'll second that motion.
That's
So that's for $23,364.
okay.
Need a pencil?
No, I'm good. I'll remember it. I better be able to remember that.
Let me throw it at you.
No, I'm fine. I'll remember that. So it's that one right there.
You can have this paper back.
I've got one too. I printed a copy just in case. So
Okay, I second the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye, motion carries. The last, you're going to get all these back.
yeah,
so
and
I
I'll get an
circled it
actual
for you.
quote for you to sign, and then they can start doing their thing. And they said, well, you know how it is here. If it starts getting cold, we're going to run into some problems. So we want to get them started on
Just
that.
tell them to be careful when they're digging up this parking lot.
Oh yeah, and it'll.
Tell them to destroy it and their insurance can fix it.
Oh, yeah. And it should time out close to, I mean, if we're looking at where we're in here, June, July, August, September, it should time out to be a transition from paying this amount to this amount. And if we can adjust the budget and we have the money to do it, that'd be great. And we can look at, knowing that that's going to be in place, making some different decisions if you want. I don't know if that's going to be a thing this year or not, but with phones and internet for those guys. There's no reason to have a separate, thing if you can attach them and let them use it, if that's okay with the county, to use those, which they were on our systems before when they lived in that building over here. You can put them on their own little, segregated
There are
network.
employees,
Yeah.
other than Melissa.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a county office.
And
Should be a part of the county.
And really, we're not even, and I don't know, but this has come up, and this is, I'm getting off topic, and I'll get the stink guy here from the clerk. But, there's a data retention thing there that was discussed some years ago
Stink eye?
that we've never really looked at. If they were on the network, should we
He's
be
got one more
retaining
matter
some of
that
that?
he can
Not U of I stuff, but our employees' stuff, right?
Okay, we're
that
gonna
is-
move on because you're running out of time here,
Sorry.
mister. The last one is the live scan and sick acceptance.
Yeah, so the live scan is a fingerprint machine, and years ago, something like this came down the pike from the Bureau of Criminal Identification for the jail, and the county took advantage of it, and we got a fingerprint machine that replaced the ink, right? So they just take their fingers and they put them on a scanner. It goes into an application, and it's transmitted to the state in a secure way. Runs over our network, but it's a separately encrypted kind of thing. So that's worked out well. There's been some costs involved with that. The original cost was paid by this mechanism like this. And then down the road, when you get to replace it, the thing to keep in mind is that you want to budget for that replacement 5 years from now or something like that. So this is another opportunity that came up a couple years ago, I think, with the sheriff's office, and we had talked about it, is, they were wanting to get, I think, sex offenders and various people into the same kind of process. Instead of having the cards, having them come in, the extra time involved, ink, all that stuff to do another machine like this. This would be a smaller machine. The one in the jail, I think the original cost was $36,000. This would be a workstation based. It looks like, on their writing here, a computer based one with a scanner. So it'd be a smaller version, probably a little bit more flexible. They'd pay for the cost and the maintenance costs, as you see in the letter initially.
Didn't we already approve this last week?
We brought it forward.
Yeah, it was sort of like, do you want to go forward with
Oh,
this?
got it.
Sometimes we do that. And we're like, hey, is this?
Knew we talked about it.
Yeah, and this is the actual formal, you'd have to sign this if you want to take advantage of this portion, and then we'd work with the sheriff's office to get that equipment in place and secure it, and then make sure that we had it brought into inventory and track so we know when it's going to be replaced.
David, I don't know if I asked this or not, but can this also double as the fingerprint machine if it goes down?
In the jail?
Yeah.
I'd have to look at it, but more than likely it could, yeah.
So it'd be a backup plan as well if that machine quits.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to move it, but if it's the one I think it is, it's not a big one. Even the big one in the jail is mobile. That one, and this, that one was $36,000 when we replaced it this last time. We didn't have to do the full replacement. We just replaced components for much less. And so it's not necessarily going to be that $20,000 replacement cost or whatever. But yeah, I didn't even look at that. That's a possibility that it would be a backup to that. It would be essentially the same thing. It hooks up to the same systems at
Same
the state
system,
level.
it's all secure, isn't it? Same
Yep.
security, all that stuff.
It's all secure. Yeah, it goes through a separate mechanism that is approved and managed by us and approved by the state on how that data is transmitted. And it's important information to keep safe. And I don't see a real downside to it other than cost, right? I mean, with everything, any of these things, it's cost. And so how does
How
that
much was the total cost for it again?
It's going to be $20,000 that we'll pay and get reimbursed for, and then ongoing maintenance fees of $1,300 to $1,700 for their 8 to 5 days a week maintenance.
So that's about $100 a month, a little
Yeah.
over 100 a month.
Yeah. And that's an important maintenance agreement to
Oh,
have.
boy, yeah, that's where the money goes.
Yeah, those are tricky machines, and they've been mostly stable, but there's some issues with them sometimes. But we have some internal ability.
Okay, so I'm gonna make the motion, then we authorize IT to purchase the live scan machine for sheriff's office. Is that what you want?
Yeah, and that takes
And authorize all of us or just chair?
I think it would be just the chair.
And authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
Any more discussion? Sheriff? Pat? Doug? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Patty, this
Boy,
is
we're
something
getting
you guys
so
need to
modern
write.
up here. And those to him, please.
It's not, we're just not accepting a grant because we get 20,000 out of it. It's something that's
Hey, David?
needed.
Yes, sir.
This also requires a sheriff's signature
Okay, sir.
or someone, a representative from the sheriff's office.
I'm not the state police and I'm not the sheriff's office.
I'll grab it.
You know what? If the only signature part says Valley County or Valley Sheriff's Office, if you'd like.
You don't
it's
need my
okay.
signature.
we could both sign on it.
Okay,
So we're both gonna sign?
That won't hurt anything.
That way it shows it went through the commission.
I'll sign down at the bottom.
Okay, they have, actually get grants for this, and then each year, and then they put it out to those agencies that had put in for it before and didn't get selected, so.
And today's is what?
15?
June 15th, right?
My husband's payday, yes. I always know the 15th and 31st. For a good reason.
Okay, then we'll get you the one.
Great, thank you.
You can be a happy camper now. You can tell everybody they're gonna get faster internet speeds.
It's amazing,
And you
know.
can be the hero of the entire Valley County.
When we did it, a couple of years ago, we had problems with ITD circuit for DMV over there. And in talking with the state, it was an issue that wasn't gonna resolve itself quickly. So they had a thing called a T1 line, which is a real slow line.
Thank
That
you.
was used for that. And we switched them over to our backup internet, which was a 100 meg connection. And the reaction from the staff and the sheriff's office was just like, they were amazed. And the state ended up, following our lead and upgrading their circuit to a similar kind of circuit after that fact, because it was really dramatic, the change. We just did it to help out with the state and sheriff's office.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Make sure we get that extra 14 grand in the budget for that middle one.
Okay. Yep,
Don't let's forget.
we won't. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to go into an executive session for Idaho Code 74261B. I need a motion.
Move that we go into executive session for Idaho Code 74201-2061B.
By roll call,
Mop and I.
Hasbrook, aye. Doug, we're in at 3:33.